Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and today we're going to talk about a fascinating topic that has been in the news a lot. And there was an article in the Sun newspaper about it on open relationships and the fact that they are soaring. And so, reporter James Somper from the Sun newspaper says that the part of what's contributed to it is being pandemic driven. Because, I mean, think about it, you're stuck at home, not really able to go out and meet and circulate like you were. Yeah, you have the dating apps, but especially a lot of the countries in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, like everything was closed. There's like literally nothing you can do. So people are stuck at home. It's like, what are we going to do with our time? They're working and they're hanging out at home. So people are experimenting. And this was the thing I thought was interesting about the lockdowns is that, especially for the people that were, earning, was it $500-600 a week, I think it was, on unemployment. And that was more than they were making in their jobs. And so you had people sitting at home that and having, this is what's interesting, like a good friend of mine who we all know, Bob, we'll call him. He, our friend from down south and who trades stocks all the time, is that one of the things he said, like when he was younger, is like, I want to get to a point in life where I have enough money and I got all my bills are paid, my houses are paid for, cars, everything, and I just have time to think. And so that's what you had. You had millions of people around the world that had time to think that normally would just been run around like maniacs, going to their job, working their 2 or 3 jobs, whatever it was, because they weren't really making a lot of money and trying to raise their kids and do the best they can. And now they're sitting at home. They're doing projects. They can read books. They can watch TV. They can have a barbecue with their friends. They can just, drink beer all day and eat popcorn and pizza or whatever. Point being is that a lot of people, millions and millions of people around the world got the time to sit at home and do nothing with their time. It's like, what are you going to do when you really don't have to do anything? Money's coming in. And so the article was implying that part of it was driven from the pandemic because people are at home. They got extra time in their hands. And when you have time to think, if something's not going well in your life, whether it's your relationship or your job or what you do for a living, you're like, well, what else would I do?
I went through the same pandemic. Now, we didn't lock down like the rest of the country, but
in the free state of Florida.
But we had plenty of extra time. And I personally, I didn't struggle with this. We started to talk about it on a previous video a couple weeks ago. And one of your followers on YouTube, Stockton James, I'm calling you out. His comment was something along the lines of a threesome is the quickest way to end your relationship with a bang. I like that, okay? I think it's accurate. I think when you're, going outside of the one you love or inviting that into your relationship, whether it's a threesome or swinging or, from a polyamory type relationship or you're doing things together, man, it's a whole new world of trouble that you're inviting in to your relationship with the one supposedly you love. And what's love? Love is not, it's more than
giving.
A feeling.
It's an act. You're there to give.
Yeah, it's a decision, and it's a decision to love and protect and not do anything that would possibly violate that trust, that unique bond that you have with your spouse, partner, whoever that person is to you. When you invite outside into that,
you're saying you're not fulfilled. It's not
I agree.
Doing it for you. It's the ultimate easy way, the lazy man's way to monkey branch to the next girl.
It's love. It's I love myself. I want this. I'm doing this for me.
But what if your girl is into girls as well?
Mm-hmm. Again, another.
And what if it's one of her girlfriends that she brings over for you?
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, what if it's really hot when they make out? What happens then? These are questions you have to ask yourself.
Yeah. Sounds like fun. It's kind of like eating your favorite ice cream, and you can't stop, and you just keep on going and going and going. But when you're done, and you wish you didn't do it.
Comfortable with that person, so they're in fear of losing them. So they're like, hey, let's do this. But at the end of the day, they still come back together, which is not healthy.
It's just the way that Chunky described it. It doesn't sound really appealing, like to see your partner as a plan B. Like me personally, like I do agree with what Mike said, that, you're inviting more trouble. I know it may sound a little hypocritical on my end, but this is really how I see it. Like, I don't care what anyone thinks. When it comes to open relationships, me personally, I wouldn't do it. Let's just say I just know how I am, and I know that's definitely not for me. But as someone who is single, like I have met someone who's in an open relationship, and I don't mind it, just as long as they're both, like him and his girlfriend, are okay with being in an open relationship. I don't mind it,
So you
I
don't
just
mind being open with them in their relationship?
No, not with them per se. Like, I'm just saying, like,
But you would be open to it.
No, if they're in an open
you brought it
relationship
up.
and I'm going out with the guy, I don't mind it because, again, I am
okay.
single. I am single, so I don't mind it. But like I said,
But you're hoping to get him all to yourself?
no, not really.
Not really.
Like I said, I'm not. Like I said, I'm not into open relationships. I wouldn't want to be in one.
So you're seeing a guy that is.
Yeah, I mean, I
so
wouldn't
you're in
be.
open relationships.
No, I'm not.
Because your actions communicate that you are.
No, I am, like I said, I'm single. I'm not looking for anything serious on that end. But say if I were to date the guy and he's in an open relationship or he's into open relationships, I wouldn't do it. That's just how I am, But again, like I said, I'm
So it's just
single.
sex,
I
in
don't
other
mind
words,
it.
you're saying, so you don't mind.
I don't mind, having the connection with the guy. It doesn't matter how, but I don't mind it. And one thing I do notice, like in open relationships, especially people who are in open relationships, it's in the name. Like they're pretty open people. So it's like, I don't know why. Like, at least from my experience with this person I've communicated with, like, I feel like a really nice connection with him. So I think it's more so because of that openness side that he has. Like he seems pretty cool, But again, that's just my opinion on things. Would I do a threesome? No. Would I do an open relationship? No. That's just how I am. A lot of people might say, again, that it might be hypocritical, but that's how I see it.
See, I think if I'm getting into a relationship, I'm going for like that. Like if it was my wife, for instance, that's more just like, that's just more kind of for me, I guess. I'm going in that for me. But I'm not knocking threesomes. I think threesomes are still fun. Like,
what if your wife wants to bring over her smoking hot friend and do a threesome with you? Would you say, I don't think so?
I mean, I don't think my.
Well, then
this specific experience,
you got to keep it balanced. Then you're going to have to bring in another guy for her, right? You'd be good with that too.
Yep.
See, this world depends on it depends.
Like
Only
his
one
mind-
sword.
I like his
Like
mindset.
that though. Why would
Double
it's just
standard.
more of like a special case
Don't
scenario
cross the
with that one
streams.
friend where she just gets along with that friend really well. That's hot. That's awesome. And then it also
There's only one hairy ass
You're
allowed in the
you're
bedroom
completely
in
right.
my
You're
house.
opening the door. You're
Yeah.
opening the door.
Yeah.
You got
That
to
is
think
why-
about it before.
That's why I preface this with, as my wife though, as a wife or like serious girlfriend, no to that. That's why I think it happens in the word there's less serious, where they're not really invested, where it's not like they're madly in love. They're just with each other to be with each other. In those relationships, it makes more sense.
Yeah, but those relationships don't always go as planned either. Meaning,
Exactly. That's what
well, you have a relationship and maybe you even have some kind of, well, it's not really a prenup, but it's one of those agreements that, okay, this is just about sex. We're just hooking up, right? And it seems like that, but then, maybe she really starts liking you, right? And you realize, wow, this isn't going as planned. And now, you either have to break that off or keep on feeding that relationship, but eventually it's just causing more and more turmoil in her own brain because she's just going to get hurt worse eventually.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same kind of thing in that, well, no, this is just casual. We're just having fun. And you could know your own intentions, but regardless of what they say to you about them, you'll never know what they're really thinking and how attached they really are.
That's true.
It's a whole can of worms, and someone's always going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm. That's a
Yeah.
fact. Yeah.
That's one of the biggest reasons why I wouldn't even bother doing either or.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of getting hurt, and especially if it is like if it's something that could be avoided, like
Well,
why
that's
get
why I
hurt
think that's
even
why the
more?
relationships were starting because the relationships were started under the pretense of being a closed relationship, but obviously something's not working if they're
Yeah.
deciding to change it.
They're bored.
Yeah,
No.
yeah,
They're
exactly.
losing the love in their relationship.
They're
So
bored.
They're looking for
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
that they're missing.
I would say there's probably, both men and women that really that's all they want. And there's probably even sites for, where men and women are on open relationship type sites and stuff. And that they just want to have fun their whole life. And they never do want to be connected, or their intention is that right now. And they're, not afraid to grow old alone. They don't, no, I'm just having fun. And at some point, because even senior citizens have relationships in the retirement homes,
Mhm.
and they go home to their own bed. And maybe there are people that are truly like that, and there might be a safe place for it in that sense. A lot of venereal disease in those places, but
That's interesting. When all the online dating thing happened the last 10, 15 years, you had a lot of older people that were going to the doctors because they got herpes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're all just having unprotected sex when the dating apps happened. They didn't think anything of it. And you're
Yeah,
thinking,
old people always used to do that.
You're thinking, hey, that person was married their whole-
Didn't really condoms and STDs were a big thing. She was just like shaking someone's hand having unprotected sex back in like the 60s, 50s.
times have changed,
Yeah.
There's, in fact, even when you're too old and you can't do it anymore, there's drugs for that now. Got that fixed. We'll make it happen. Hey, let's go back to this for a minute, because back to the whole relationship and stuff. And why would somebody think about going outside of that relationship, being bored and stuff like that? Is it possible they never really found the one?
most people settle, and that's so. If you are unhappy and your relationship is mediocre, but you're working all the time, and then like with the lockdowns, you're locked up with each other, then you're faced with the fact I don't like hanging out with this person, because as much as you might be attracted to somebody, if you don't like hanging out with them or listening to what they have to say, or vice versa, them listening to what you have to say, it's going to get old pretty quick. And because your looks are going to fade eventually anyways. And, it makes sense that a lot of people during the lockdowns are stuck with their significant other that they really weren't that into and they had settled. And then when you're kind of with them all day because you're both at home, it makes sense. But it's what the reason why most people don't do anything about it is because who wants to be single when you've been in a relationship? You got easy access to sex. It might not be setting your soul on fire, but going out and being single and because everybody's gone out on dates that didn't go well, or they met somebody online and they didn't look like their pictures, or you meet somebody online, their pictures look good, but then when you hang out in person, you don't like listening to them, or their voice sounds like nails in the fucking chalkboard or something. And there's just unpleasant experiences that you have the more you date. And so it's easy to just stick with what you've done. You think, man, it might be another year or two before I find somebody I really like enough to want to get into a relationship with them.
Yeah.
And so this is a way to kind of interview replacements or see what it's like to be with somebody else. Because we read an article and did a video a few weeks ago about a couple where the husband was like, let's do a threesome. Let's get another woman. And finally, she's begrudgingly says, okay. And she liked it so much, she ended up leaving her husband for a woman. And other people end up breaking up and going their separate way, because it's very rare. And I use this analogy a lot. It's like, how often do you meet a new best friend or somebody you become really close to? It like almost never happens. And it's the same thing with girlfriends or significant others. It's like, it's very rare that you meet somebody that you genuinely enjoy listening to and actually wants to listen to the bullshit that's coming out of your own mouth. And so when you find somebody that's really good but not exceptional, or it doesn't feel like a soul connection, you're like, man, that's the best thing I had in a few years. It's like, this is pretty good. I'm getting older. Maybe I should just settle. If I want to have kids, and so you talk yourself into it. But at the end of the day, you still settled. and then 6 months, a year, 10 years later, kids later, marriage later, you run into somebody that sets your soul on fire.
So you
And then
think.
you leave. Well, so you think. Then you leave for whatever reason, or you recognize that you really weren't happy and you really had settled. You did what everybody talked you into doing. And so
Yeah.
this article, I mean, it's like a 45% leap in inquiries. And I would say that, you know, because most people major in minor things. I think Jim Rohn was the first one to say that. But people settle in their jobs, their careers. They settle in how they take care of their bodies, their relationships, their friendships, their lifestyle. They're constantly settling. So it becomes a way of life. And so you got a lot of people that have settled, and then they got to spend a lot of time with somebody you really weren't that into. To me, that's manifesting like really they're trying to see what else is out there. Can I do better?
I have a little
But not
problem with the
blow up
word.
what I got.
I have a little problem with the word settle because you're assuming you settled as if there is something better on the other side, like you missed out. And really, it's just because you realize that there is no one perfect. I forget
True.
where I heard a pastor say
Everybody's
something
got
along
flaws.
the lines like, asking married couples, have you thought about who you're going to marry when your spouse dies? And, there's like kind of like a big laughter because who hasn't, kind of thing. Meaning everyone realizes that marriage is tough. There's a balance, there's a give and take, and love is choosing to put in the effort. Love is something you do, in the scriptures.
It's an act.
The agape love was translated as charity, an act of love. And it's interesting too, because scriptures have a lot to say about this. And this could sound a little controversial, but the Apostle Paul said something like, it is good not to marry. But because you'll burn with passion, it's good that, every man should find a wife and every wife a husband so that they don't burn with passion. And it goes on talking about sex in the way by saying, but they should come together. A woman does not own her body, but it belongs to her husband. And a husband does not own his body. It belongs, to her. And, it essentially says that you should come together to prevent each other from burning with passion. Because, right after that intimacy, who's thinking of other people? Oh, I'm good now. It's addressed. And in a true love relationship, you recognize that, we're giving each other that gift, that love. And there is effort, but we're protecting what we have because we choose to when we want to do this thing. To me, obviously swinging or inviting another person into that relationship is really just throwing all that away and just throwing a big wrench in it.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
When you have a closed relationship, then moving to an open relationship, you're only partially breaking up. You're just one foot
Yeah.
out.
Good way of looking at it.
No, but there's
Partially
there's
breaking
people-
up.
But
Yeah.
there's people that are okay with open relationships. Like I totally respect that. That's on them. But I wouldn't. Yeah, like
It's
I
in
said,
real
I wouldn't
estate,
do
you're
it.
entertaining any and all offers.
But
Yeah.
but they're choosing that up
You're a
on the front
restricted
end.
Yeah.
free
And
agent.
if they come with if they come to a mature consensus and they respect, they respect each other's decision, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like I don't judge it. But like I said, I
could
wouldn't
be
do
like, it could be like another level of love, like
Yeah.
because they trust each other so much, and like I love you so much that I want to see you like express it, I guess, with someone else.
Yeah.
Like,
Compersion.
I want them to be satisfied as well, so I love you so much that I would let you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's okay.
You love
It's
them
just a
so
different
much,
type
you want
of
them to
love.
be happy, even if it's not with you.
And they've come up with a word for that. I think it's compersion, where let me watch my spouse have relationships with this person, and when he brings her to orgasm, or
some people are like that. but
him, it brings that one great
who was
joy.
that guy Jack Murphy, remember?
Mm.
The conservative guy. This guy particular. This is interesting. This guy was on Timcast several times. He was on the Blaze TV, a bunch of these other ones, and his name was Jack Murphy. And I remember talking to Anthony, President Anthony Dream Johnson, 21 Studios. You guys probably have no idea who he is, but we did some interviews together a few years ago. And so he was telling me about this guy, Jack Murphy, that had this girlfriend who was younger, red hair, attractive. And he got off on his girlfriend going on Craigslist and putting ads out there. And then he would go and drop her off. And then he'd be writing, about things. Oh, yeah, my girlfriend's over just getting plowed by some dude that she met on Craigslist. And I'm totally cool with it. And then apparently it all came out in the last few months that, I don't know, 6 to 8 years ago when they first got together, they were doing, I don't know if it's an OnlyFans thing, but it's some kind of thing where they're basically having sex and people are paying them money to tell them how to fuck each other and what to do to each other. And then they would do it. And so, but, nowadays the guy presents himself as this Christian man and they're getting married or going to get married or whatever. And then so you have all this because he's on these very well-known podcasts. He's getting all this exposure. And then there were people that went and found the videos from him having sex with this girl and her sticking things in him and him talking about that he was hetero flexible, meaning he's into men and he's into women. And he's saying this on camera. And people were like, this guy's a total hypocrite. He's presenting himself as this Christian man. And in reality, just from a few years ago, and his excuse was, well, my girlfriend and I were broke. And so we did this for a period of time to pay the bills for the podcast and all took off. And so he ended up hiding this thing on Twitter. And it was pretty funny situation. But he's reformed, changed man. And now he's a Christian family man. And he's going to teach you how to raise your children in a Christian way.
Yeah, Christian, family people can still have their own toys. But I don't think it should involve other people.